Sorry guys, I couldn't resist giving you a jump scare, but welcome back to the 13 Darkest and Scariest Thomas adaptations. Today we have the video that got me hooked on fan-made Thomas horror stories in general. All written, directed, narrated, and edited by Victor Tanzig. Now, let me address something. Because I'm a huge fan of Victor's work, some of you in the comments might expect me to be extremely biased here. But no, I'm going to be incredibly honest in my criticisms here, because it's been 7 years since I first got hooked onto the stories of Sodor, and opinions can differ over a great period of time, and I also don't want to look like I'm sucking off Victor's funnel here. You guys already know the grading criteria, so let's begin the review.
I would consider myself to be a very easygoing engine, but there are things that I hate, winter being one of them. No, it's not because I'm a Christmas Grinch, it's because this snowbound season brings with it a whole host of problems. Ports will often shut down due to ice-covered waters, so a railway loses out on its transportation contracts. A great many mining-based industries will sometimes close for the season, so we're denied those jobs as well. Finally, there's the snow itself.
If there's anything that Victor is good at, it's establishing shots, and his dialogue is superb. And he does a really good job of explaining the current hazards or current plot line that's going on within each episode. In this case, the consequences of heavy snow. And the banter between the engines is always very entertaining.
Good grief! What is it, Dougie? We got ourselves a doozy here, Donny. A bonny pile of snow, have we? Nothing we can't handle, I'm sure. I never said I was worried, only that I'm impressed. Did Mickey want us to wait until he got here? Nay, he said to make a start, so we... Wait, what was that? I'm not sure. It sounded like a whistle. There it is again. Oi, who's there? Douglas, is that you? Ugh, goodness sake, Donald, it's Henry. Henry, are you alright? I've been better. By oath am I glad you're here. How long have you been stuck there? I don't know. Is it still 1937? Don't fret, Henry. Wait a while. We'll get you out. Wait a while. Are you being clever? Oh, sorry. Poor choice of words.
The Scottish twins happen upon a large snowdrift while out plowing the rails. They hear a whistle and unearth the snow to find Henry buried within it. Later at the sheds, the engines discuss their day and the dangers of snow. And we get a tragic tale that Edward tells about the dangers of snow.
We've had a lot of snowfall this year. Yeah, I don't much like it either, as it always reminds me of Arthur. Who? Arthur? I've told you about him, haven't I? No, I've never heard of this Arthur either. Me neither. Do you lads want to hear about him? Are you sure, Edward? We're not going to change history by ignoring it, Toby. Did this Arthur do something wrong? Oh yes, he did.
I've seen this before.
Arthur was a mixed traffic engine for the Middies, one of their earliest additions when they first came to Sodor. Without question, he was the most boastful engine I had ever known. He was forever prattling on about his spotless record, how he had never once been late. What made it worse was that it was true. It was late one night in the winter of 1923 when he had to take an express train. He had suffered a delay and couldn't get out of the station quick enough when he was finally allowed to leave. Eager to make up for lost time, desperate to preserve his spotless record, he tore down the line at a criminally reckless speed. This, combined with the poor visibility, the icy rails and the steep descent of Gordon's Hill, it was small wonder what happened next.
What a horrifying and tragic tale. However, it's a lesson to be learned. Such a massive loss of life due to one's arrogance. If there's one thing I can't stand, though, within this story, is how quickly Victor belts his lines out. Sometimes it sounds okay, and other times it's like...
The rails. He and his coaches rolled almost 100 yards before stopping, but that wasn't the worst of it. What could be worse? Every single one of his passengers were killed.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Don't be nervous, son. Just slow down.
What about Arthur? What happened to him? He was scrapped. The impact killed him instantly and turned his body into a mangled heap of metal that barely resembled an engine. And it didn't end there either. What do you mean? Come now, Thomas. You don't really believe that. How many people have seen it, Edward? How many? They can't all be wrong. They can't all be right either. What are you talking about? It's reckoned every year on the anniversary of Arthur's death that his ghost appears, hoping desperately to reach its destination so he and the tormented souls of his victims can finally be at peace.
After this, we get our first spooky apparition encounter with Arthur's ghost, and it's poor old put upon Percy that's the victim of it.
Whose whistle is that? Bust my buffers! What a silly twit to tear down the hill like that in this weather! Oh my goodness! Jerry, did that sound like a train crash? It most certainly did. It was a passenger train too. We need to get down there, and fast. What? Where is it? I don't know. You did hear the crash, right? By oath I did. Angus, you saw a train go by, didn't you? I did. There's no rubble anywhere. No sign of a crash at all. Maybe we heard wrong. We all heard wrong the sound of a train crash? That sounds unlikely. What other explanation could there be? What's wrong, Percy? Maybe it was Arthur's ghost. Thomas said this was around the time he starts appearing. Come on, Percy, you're being ridiculous.
Percy and his crew hear a train crash after the apparition appears, only to find nothing at the site of the sound. The surrounding neighborhoods also heard the crash and turned out in droves to see what they could find, and they were surprised when they found nothing. The news around Sodor publishes a story about Arthur's death and the ghost story that follows, igniting public interest and debate about the possibility of a ghost on the island. Edward Doe remains a skeptic until he has a counter of his own whilst waiting at a station.
Who was that? I don't know. Huh, that's odd. I thought Reginald was due in. He was. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Excuse me, you're not on the schedule. Who gave you clearance to stop here? I'm talking to you, mate. Unfortunately, I wouldn't have been able to help as the engine was faceless, meaning talking to it would have been like talking to a wall. I will say there was something very unsettling about that train. Alright, I'm ordering you to get out of your engine. I must warn you, failure to comply with the orders of a railway official may result in...
That scream. Even 7 years later, and probably watched this 1,000 times, it still makes me jump. God damn it, we never see what this poor woman sees, but we can only imagine what was so horrible that she went mentally insane over it. After the public got wind of this, business began to really decline for night trains, and due to the failing business, the engines decided to come up with a plan to get rid of Arthur's ghostly apparition.
Well, that tells me he's doomed to repeat his fate. Maybe we can send him away by interrupting this process. How? By telling him he doesn't need to take his coaches. We need to find someone whom Arthur would take orders from. Maybe even someone who was around when he had his accident. But that can only be one person. There is no way he is going to go.
They come up with a plan to get Mr. Zorro, who's the director of the Midland Railway, a person who Arthur always looked up to and tried to please, to try and talk to Arthur's ghost to tell him that he does not have to take the train and that he could finally rest in peace.
Lucky old chap. Hello? Arthur? Is that you? Well, you're probably wondering why I'm here. I, have good news. I was finally able to get hold of an express engine, so I don't need you to take this train on. You've done very well and can rest easy. Don't you understand? You can go.
After Mr. Zora tells Arthur's lost spirit that he can go, Arthur's apparition disappears. The story ends with the engines returning to normal, and everything slowly going back to normal. The story being told over and over again leads it to fading into obscurity and into folklore. And then the story ends and the screen fades to black and we get the credits to roll. Okay, now the difficult part of this video, and that comes to ranking it. Because this is an older version of Trains, visually it's not that great. It's still very polygonal in the shapes and the motion is a bit jittery in the frames. But as far as Victor's world building and cinematography, I'm going to give it a solid 10. Simply for his ability to create great environments and great establishing shots. It feels immersive, and it makes you feel welcome. How about his voice acting and narration? Victor tries to give every engine a unique voice, and I can appreciate that, but sometimes the lines are read a bit too quickly and it leaves a lot more natural emotion to be desired in the delivery. However, his writing skills and storytelling skills are incredible, and I do find myself listening to every word, but because of some clunky deliveries, it's an 8 for this one. The characters are built up really good, and not only are they given the stereotypical attributes from the original series, they're also flushed out to be more mature and adult-like. Especially the cheeky tank engine that is Thomas. He's like a little jokester that doesn't take himself too seriously, but when he does, he's like presented in a mild-mannered way. The same with wise old Edward and the sarcastic and conniving Diesel. They all come out as really flushed out characters, and despite the original traits given to them by the original model series, they're flushed out a bit more. And it's true, and you could see some of them having faults in their own abilities, such as Edward being a skeptic until he's proven wrong.
Well, you certainly had an interesting run of things lately, Henry. Aye, first flat tires, then a snowdrift, maybe I'll run into an elephant next. I don't think that's very likely, Henry. You never know. We've had a lot of snowfall this year. Yeah, I don't much like it either, as it always reminds me of Arthur. Who? Arthur?
However, some characters deserve a little bit more attention to detail, like the Scottish twins, because sometimes Victor's Aussie accent slips out in a Scottish twang. Sound effect-wise, there's really not a lot of problems I have with it, other than Arthur's whistle could use some cleaning up. It sounds fuzzy and has some feedback issues, where I think he could have searched for a better whistle sound effect, or maybe even cleaned this one a bit up himself. So, with that being said, the characters and the overall sound effects, I'm going to give it a 9. How about the music? The music is great. It's from the original model series, and that soundtrack always slaps. And Victor knows the right placement for it in each shot. However, there's some awkward cuts where it just abruptly stops and doesn't fade out.
What a silly twit to tear down the...
And it sounds really awkward, especially when you're just about to start talking again. And that's going to cost a point, so I'm going to give it a 9 here too. And the final score is a 45 out of 50. So far the lowest in terms of this list, but that doesn't mean another adaptation can't go any lower. I'm not trying to be harsh for harsh's sake here. I'm simply calling out the mistakes and some things that could use some work. Critical analysis is not meant to be taken personally, so you relax, you fangirls and fanboys. But other than that, it's an overall good story, and it's what got me hooked into these horror adaptations in general. If it wasn't for this introduction, I might not be making this series today. But with that being said, a 45 out of 50, it's not bad, okay? So just calm your tits. The following video for Thursday will be talking about The Carelessness of Johnny by Shunter Productions. Other than that, that's the end of this video. Thank you guys for waiting patiently. I apologize for yesterday. I just had a lot of stuff going on. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.